Games rated E to M. Welcome to Nintendo Power Podcast. This episode, we dig into the big updates for Super Mario Maker 2 and Animal Crossing New Horizons. We recommend games for Metroid fans and more. My name is Chris Slate, and joining me today are Morgan Ritchie from Nintendo Treehouse. Hi, Morgan.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. And Yafine Lee from the Strategic Communications team at Nintendo of America. Hi, Yafine.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, so I'm really glad you could both join me today because you're the perfect people to talk about some big new updates to a couple of my favorite games on Nintendo Switch. Of course, I'm talking about Super Mario Maker 2 and Animal Crossing New Horizons. Now, Morgan, you came on the show back at the launch of Super Mario Maker 2, and at least in my opinion, you're definitely an expert at this game, having created courses for competitive events, going all the way back to the first Super Mario Maker on the Wii U system. So I definitely want to hear what you have to say about the new updates. And you find even among everyone here at Nintendo of America that are currently really into playing Animal Crossing New Horizons, you kind of have a special status because as people go to your island, they come back with all these amazing stories of just how wonderful a place it is. And you just gave me a tour, and I got to experience it for myself, and it definitely lived up to the reputation. So I can't wait to talk about that. So you find, and how many hours have you played Animal Crossing New Horizons again?
I think we're probably like 220 or something now, over 220.
Wow, well, it definitely shows it. When I went to your island, it was almost like we were playing different games. The difference was that great. But anyway, like I said, you guys are the perfect people to talk to about these two games and these updates. And I want to start first with Super Mario Maker 2. As a lot of our listeners will know, version 3.0 was released on April 22nd. And this included some really big updates, most notably, to me, World Maker mode, where you could create your own super worlds that are up to 8 worlds and 40 total courses each. And you can also find and play other people's super worlds in Course World. And basically, you find someone's super world and you get a title screen, you get a map, you go from stage to stage. You finish, you get kind of a short ending, and it's like a full self-contained game now that you can make with Super Mario Maker 2. So let's start there, Morgan. What was your first impression, I guess, as you were starting to experiment with this, and just what are your thoughts on World Maker?
Yeah, I'm so excited that World Maker finally made it. I mean, I think it's something that all of us that played or worked on the game, it's like making courses is great, but you kind of in the back of your mind, you're like, I want to put these all together. I want I want a world map. I want to be able to link these things. And it was really cool to see all the work that the dev team did to put that and sort of bring it to Super Mario Maker 2. And the most exciting thing for me is just that I think it, in some ways, it sort of takes the pressure off of makers in a way, because when you're making just a single course, I feel like sometimes people it's like you try to do too much. Like you try to pack everything that you can think of into one course, because that's sort of this course, somebody plays that course, it's like, this is my calling card as a Mario Maker. But now you can sort of edit those ideas into these bite-sized nuggets and link them all together and have different thematic worlds. And that's what was exciting for me, to see not just that you could link your courses together, but that you could have, like you said, up to 8 worlds, and you could have a snow one, an ice one, a desert one, a forest one. Suddenly water courses might make more sense because you have the world route go into the water and then hop back out, or you go climb a vine up into the clouds, and that's where you have your airship level. So I think it just really is going to help makers sort of refine, edit, and sort of build their own little, like you said, their little Mario masterpiece.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, you mentioned some of the customization you can do on the map, and that's something that I really found appealing. Even down to the actual little icons that represent your course on the map. I had a water level, and I was happy to find that I could make that, the little dot on the map for that level be a lake. So it really, they really line up, and you can really put that same level of thought in there that they must have put into some classic Super Mario games like Super Mario World, which is where the kind of look of the map in this game comes from. So, Yafine, have you played much Super Mario Maker 2 in the past? Are you aware of kind of all these new updates?
Yeah. It's this actually brought me back in. So it's I sometimes lack I need kind of that creative direction to really push me to be a little bit more creative, right? So I do feel like this update it gives me more direction in terms of like the story I want to tell, and that's what really makes me excited to play it. And now I feel like sometimes I get lost in like what direction to go next with certain levels, or all of my levels end up looking the same. I do feel like this update kind of gave me an opportunity to think about, okay, what's like the bigger world story I want to tell, and then really build my levels around that. So yeah, I'm been super excited about it.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point that really affects how you think about your course design now, or at least it does for me. I mean, my first super world that I put together really just was a way to collect the 10 stages I'd already made and put a lot of time into. But now I want to create more and create more courses that I can build into more worlds. And now I'm thinking more like, okay, I need to have a certain rhythm to this. It's like I imagine recording an album versus recording a single, right? You want to think about how one level leads into the next, and you're slowly ramping up the difficulty, and you're kind of spacing out a variety of types of levels. So all this new strategy comes into play. That's got me really looking at it as a whole kind of game now, and not just as one shot levels. And then moving on to some of the new course parts that were also added to the game. Starting with enemies, first of all 7 Koopalings, and each of them have different attack patterns, and that really immediately added a significant number of new bosses to the game, which was great. I haven't even had a chance to try them all yet. And then you've got the cursed key from Super Mario Brothers 2, which is great. You grab that key, and then Phanto, the enemy Phanto, chases you as long as you hold it. So kind of a risk reward there. And then Mecha Koopas, who personally I've been really looking forward to having them added to the game, because I really loved how they were used in Super Mario World back in the day. And they've got all these crazy new abilities now, so it seems like there's a lot you can do with those. Morgan, what do you think about these new enemies? I would imagine Koopalings are a favorite, but what jumps out to you?
Yeah, I mean, the Koopalings not only are Larry, Iggy, Wendy, Lemmy, Roy, Morton, and Ludwig in the game now,
Nice.
But it's kind of fitting that you have 7 of them, and then you also have Bowser in the game. Obviously, there's other enemies in Bowser Jr., but say you have a super world with 8 worlds, and you need and you really are somebody who wants to put a boss at the end of each world. Well, now you have 7, Koopalings and Bowser or Bowser Jr. or somebody as the final boss. So it's great. I mean, they're great in their own on just in a course, but it's also really cool that they can really tie into that sort of world making in a more traditional sense, where you're looking for sort of a boss or like a at the end of a course. And I also just love the art style. The Koopalings are in the 4, Super Mario Bros., Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario World, and Super Mario Bros. U. They're not in the Super Mario 3D World style, but in the 4 that they are in, just the art is so cool. Like seeing them in sort of pixel form or in that Super Mario Bros. U form. Yeah, it's a great addition. And you mentioned the Mecha Koopa too, and yeah, it's not just the Mecha Koopa, but there's 2. The alternate versions, there's the Zappa Mecha Koopa, which has sort of zaps you with this like lightning laser bolt thing. And then there's the Blasta Mecha Koopa, and he's blasting those missiles at you, sort of like homing missiles. So really cool stuff you can do with those. Yeah, it's kind of like there's so many parts and enemies now that it can be a bit overwhelming. It's like when you go to the store to buy a toothbrush and there's like 500 toothbrushes, but the fact that you can now sort of break up your ideas into different courses and build them into worlds, I think it's a good problem to have, that there's such a large toolbox now for makers to use.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I really liked seeing in the announcement video for this update is, as they're talking through the list of new additions, if you actually watch the footage, there's a lot of great examples of these new course parts being used. So it's not just, a lot of times it's not about throwing everything that you've got into one level, but it's about, really digging into the mechanics of maybe 1 or 2 different key pieces and really finding creative ways to use those. And so I thought that the video gave me a lot of great inspiration on that. And I've carried that over into some of the stuff that I'm working on now for sure. So you said that this is kind of bringing you back to the game. Were you, as far as these new enemies, is there anything in there that you're particularly looking forward to working with?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the same, right? The Koopalings as a kid, the Super Mario World, like those characters are really what stuck out to me and what I remember. And so for me now, as someone who kind of wants a little more direction to kind of inspire me as like what to theme my stages around, I can now choose, okay, well, if I'm going to put like Larry as the boss of this level, what am I going to theme the level around? Like, what's Larry's personality? That's kind of how I tend to think of it. Is just okay. this is what I think Larry's personality is. I'm gonna put this in his course and really theme it around him. So for me, that's where a lot of the fun and creativity comes from.
Yeah, that's great. Like I said before, it's you really start thinking on a whole other level when it comes to putting together a world and using all these pieces. Well, I'm just going to run through the remaining list of kind of these significant new updates. The rest of these are power-ups. So to start with, there's the Super Mario Brothers 2 Mushroom, which is a favorite of mine. I'll come back to that in a minute. The frog suit that originally appeared in Super Mario Brothers 3. The power balloon from Super Mario World. The super acorn from New Super Mario Brothers. The boomerang flower from Super Mario 3D World. And then speaking of Super Mario 3D World, a long list of masks or things that Mario basically can put on his head that gives him certain abilities, like the cannon box, the propeller box, the Goomba mask, the bullet bill mask, and the red POW block. Now, that's a lot of stuff, so I won't necessarily ask you guys to go through the whole thing, but Morgan, just looking at all those, what are some of the things that are sparking your creativity the most there?
Well, I'm actually going to start with something you didn't even mention, which is I think one of the most underrated new part this update added, which is it added the dotted line block, which is just your simple on-off block that goes from dotted line to solid to Super Mario 3D World. So that's never been in that style, and that's like a part that people use so often. So take 3D World, which people might not spend quite as much time with because maybe they love dotted line blocks. Add that in, plus, like you said, the red POW box or like the bullet bill mask is super fun to sort of fly through the level. So you listed, 5 wearable boxes or masks for Super Mario 3D World, plus the dotted line block and the on-off trampoline was also added to 3D World. So I'm personally been spending way more time in that game style because it wasn't the one that I found myself going to the most often. But now that some of there's both new plus old parts added to that, I think has really reinvigorated it for me personally.
Yeah, I've spent most of my time, in fact, all of my levels are in the original Super Mario Brothers style because I really like working with those pieces and those semi-solid backgrounds and that whole aesthetic and figuring out how to kind of take some of those more basic elements and make something cool out of them. But I'm seeing all this stuff that's being added to the other styles, especially Super Mario 3D World, and I think I'm gonna have to start, expanding a little bit. So, I love Super Mario 3D World, the actual game to begin with, and I love that style and that music. So, I think now I'm finally gonna have to start broadening my horizons. So, Yafine, what do you think about all these power-ups and all the stuff that Morgan just mentioned? And also, do you have a favorite style when you're working in Super Mario Maker 2?
I do like the 3D World look just because of I just love to see them in that kind of like alive, like 3D visuals. I will say, in terms of new items, like what excites me the most, just aesthetically, is just the frog suit. Just because as a kid, I felt like that was just so. It was one of my favorite looks for Mario overall. I do think the Super Mario Brothers 2, the mushroom where you can now transform is a lot of fun, just because it adds like a whole new dynamic, right? Of like, okay, now I can pick up items and throw them. How am I going to implement that into my courses, and really just adds that new element that I can really think new horizons for, new ways to kind of design levels and really go off on it.
Yeah, that Super Mario Brothers 2 mushroom is what attracted my attention right away because I love that look of Mario. I love the music that comes with that from the old game. I just, I love seeing some love being shown toward that game, and it really changes things dramatically. It reminds me of when the update came out where you could get the Master Sword power up to turn into Link, and suddenly it played like a completely different game. And I think that's the case too with the Super Mario Brothers 2 mushroom. I'm working on a level now that I'm having a lot of fun with, where the only theme really is you get that mushroom and then you have to ride bullet bills. So you can, similar to riding on Birdo's egg back in the old Super Mario Brothers 2 game, now you set up a cannon to shoot a bullet bill and you ride it, but at any point you can also pick up bullet bill. Of course, if you do that at the wrong time, you'll fall. But I'm creating these little kind of action/puzzle type areas where you ride past certain dangers and then you have to pick up bullet bill, go somewhere else carrying him, put him back in place, and then jump on him before he leaves you again, so you can continue on, over different pits and things like that. So, and that's just scratching the surface of just one of those power-ups. So there's a lot there to play with for sure. So, to close out our discussion here about Super Mario Maker 2 and these new updates, Morgan, just what do you think? What are some tips that you might have around some of these parts, or maybe about the game in general? What do you think people should keep in mind as they jump back into this game?
I mean, I mentioned it a little bit at the outset, but I think that the more people, I think that Mario levels in general just sort of work best when there's a little bit of room for everything to breathe, so to speak. It could be a difficult level or an easy level, but when you're making a super world, I think because you're able to link multiple courses, you can let your levels breathe a little bit. You don't have to feel like you need to make it the entire length of the slider that you can go in the length, or you don't have to always add a sub world. You can really sort of, I think, edit down your levels, include those really cool elements, obstacles or gadgets or long jumps or whatever that make it challenging, but also give players time to sort of gather their breath in between and sort of, I think just, let your levels breathe. And you can always, if you have a really good idea and you want to pack it in the end of your level, well, now maybe save it for the next course, your world 1-2 or your level 1-2, so to speak, in the next little spot on your world map.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I was thinking the same thing. It's like we were talking about earlier with the world map, which is it gives you a different kind of flow to the game. And I think if you're someone like me who really loves putting a lot of effort into a level and putting it out there and on the hopes that somebody will kind of randomly come across it and enjoy it, I think you tend to want to put everything into that one level because maybe it's your one shot at kind of connecting with that player and showing them what you can do. But now with the opportunity that someone will come across your world and really invest that amount of time into it, it kind of feels like I can allow myself now to take my foot off the gas a little bit and slowly build. And each world, I still want to make it great and as perfect as can be, but it doesn't have to have everything crammed into that one space, and you can really take your time with it. So yeah, I'm definitely thinking along those same lines. And Yafine, what would you say, some people might want to keep in mind as they begin to explore either these new parts or, like I said, just getting back into the game maybe after a break?
Yeah, and I think Morgan hit it on the head. For me, it's always been the problem of, well, I've got all these ideas, all these parts I want to put in one course. How does it all become like one cohesive course that someone's going to play and actually enjoy, right? And so I do think the update really does add that element of like giving me that direction or that push, that little bit of a push I need to really be like, okay, it's okay to not have everything in this level because there's another level that can be connected to it, right? So really for me, it's the same advice that Morgan gave, because that's really what I've been following too. Is okay, now I can really spread out my creativity across several levels versus just one, and then really tell that story, which for me is the exciting part.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think continuing on that theme that we've been talking about in terms of taking your time and when creating your super world, I think you also need to pay attention to when considering the flow of the worlds, to pay attention to how many lives you give the player, and where you place those one-up mini games on the map, and even which kind you choose. Some seem to be a little bit harder than others. So, my world tends to have a lot of levels that tend to have very small clear rates. So with that in mind, I made sure to give people a lot of lives because I wanted to be fair and didn't feel like they had to keep restarting because the levels were just too daunting. So maybe keep that in mind as well too. And then, like I said earlier, I think something that was really illustrated well in that video is just pick one or two parts, or pick a part, an enemy, or some kind of challenge yourself with some kind of combination. Maybe this level is going to be all about on-off blocks and bullet bills or something like that. And limiting yourself, I think, can help spur creativity if maybe you're looking at all these different options. And like Morgan said earlier, you're not quite sure where to start. So yeah, I think those are all great tips. All right, so thanks guys for that. And now let's move on to Animal Crossing New Horizons. Just to recap a little bit here, there was a series of free updates to the game that started back on April 23rd. And let's start with some stuff that people will have encountered already. We've got Leif's Garden Shop, if I'm saying that right. I'm never sure if it's Leif or Leif. But now he will regularly visit your island to sell shrubs and flower seeds. And then Jolly Red's Treasure Trawler, where he will show up on his boat and sell art and furniture with unique colors. And like in previous Animal Crossing games, his art could be the real deal or it could be a fake knockoff, and you have to really try to figure that out. And if you've got the real deal, you can donate it to the museum And they'll open a whole new wing of the museum, an art gallery for paintings and sculptures, which is great. I hadn't even considered that they might expand the museum. So, Yafine, let me ask you first: have you been duped by Jolly Red, and what do you think? What do you think of Leaf? Because I know that your island is very floral, so I'm imagining that you're getting a lot of great use out of what he has to offer.
Yeah, no, I have not yet been duped by Red. I've had him visit once already, so I think he gives you the first one, and I was able to expand my museum. He came again, and I somehow managed to pick the right painting. So I'm not exactly sure how you're supposed to tell if it's right just yet, but I think I got pretty lucky with this one, and I thought I looked at all the options pretty closely to make sure I chose something that was legit. So I have not yet been duped by him, but I'm sure it'll happen at some point in the future. I mean, I love Red in general too. He's just such a funny character, and he's like sneaky, right? Just for lack of a better word. But he's just so interesting of a character, and I love how shady all of his interactions are.
Yeah, I think it's great that the game can have those characters. I mean, by and large, you just love them all, and they're all just friendly and nice, even if they do have some quirky personalities. But I like that there's one or two that you can kind of build a love-hate relationship with a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And Leaf is great because when I first saw the update that shrubs were coming, I was probably a little more excited than I thought I would ever be for something like shrubs, right? Because like you mentioned, like my island is fully decked out in flowers everywhere, and as soon as I saw the shrubs update, I was like, oh yeah, man, where am I going to put all these shrubs? I need to find like places to really want to outline, like, where am I going to replace my flowers, or am I going to like have them accent my flowers? So the shrub update was probably the most exciting for me, just because it really impacted my island and really made me go back and think some of the areas where I maybe felt a little bit like things were going a little bit stale for me design wise, right? Because I was thinking, oh, I'm already done with this area. But now I can go back and say, oh, okay, I kind of want to add a shrub here, I want to add a shrub there, I want to frame my flowers in a certain way. It's brought a lot of new opportunities for me to think through.
Well, that's definitely the first thing I noticed when I flew over your island before I even landed was two things. One, you seem to have done a lot of island designing, and you have you've done a lot with the multi-tiered kind of approach with waterfalls and everything. It all just looks very carefully crafted. But then you've also, with flowers and shrubs, really built out I feel bad because Isabel's always telling me that if I want to get KK Slider to come to my island, one of the things I should focus on is planting some flowers and just bringing up the general appeal of my island. And now I kind of see what she's talking about now that I've been to your place and can see the comparison. I've got a long ways to go, apparently.
I might have gone a little overboard with the flowers. Isabel might complain at some point, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that would be great if at some point she said, look, dude, tone it back.
Yeah.
Well, Morgan, what interests you more, possibly being duped by a shady art dealer or decking out your island in some beautiful shrubbery?
Definitely shrubbery, and I can't even say my island because I'm actually sharing an island with my 5.5-year-old daughter, and this is basically her first video game. It was like the perfect game at the perfect age where she was ready to do it, and I've been reading the messages to her, and she started playing first, so she's the island rep, which has been pretty hilarious. So our island is progressing a little bit more at her pace, but. Yeah, we do a lot of gardening at home. She likes planting flowers in our front yard, and she has been loving planting flowers on the island. So she actually, she'll usually play the game in the middle of the day, maybe half an hour in the middle of the day. And she got to the update before I did. And when I, she was like, look, Dada, look, shrubs. I got shrubs now, and it was awesome to see the delight to have another option. And she already bought some and planted them, and it's great. It's been the rhythm of sharing an island with a 5.5-year-old has been hilarious. I basically, she plays during the day while I clean up the house, and then at night she goes to bed and I play, and then I kind of clean up the island because she's left a lot of stuff everywhere. So
that's great. You can kind of help her out. I love that. My kids are both, they have their own Nintendo Switch, but they share on that Nintendo Switch. They share an island, so they'll come visit my island or vice versa. or I'll try to bring them things to help them kind of get going a little bit. But they've really been into the game too, and it is fun because my son has more of the dynamic where he's just kind of playing for fun, and he's not as on target with some of the tasks that need to be done, whereas my daughter is much more on that. So sometimes there's a little bit of a push and pull there. But we talked about this a lot in the last couple of episodes, but I just love how this is a game that seems to be bringing together all kinds of players. And it's great that that's your daughter's first game. I can't think of a better one to kind of introduce her to.
It's been so fun. And just finally last night, after 2 weeks of asking, my wife finally joined the island and set up her tent, which was yet another thrill for my daughter. Especially the fact that my wife has a tent on the compared to my daughter's now decked out house.
That's great. All right, so continuing on with the different updates that were announced, there are also going to be seasonal events. We've got Nature Day. This one is just coming to a close. It was from April 23rd to May 4th. It involved special Nook Miles challenges focusing on nature-inspired goals such as planting trees and watering flowers. Yafine, have you really had a chance to make the most of Nature Day?
Oh, definitely. Every day I've been doing the daily limited time events that's part of your Nook Miles Plus allocation at the top, and then also just planting a bunch of shrubs everywhere, waiting for Leap to hopefully come back so I can buy a little bit more. And I think, what was it? I think I got azaleas and hibiscus, which were the first two that I had the option to buy, and I have a feeling there's others that you can actually get too. So I've been kind of chatting with friends to see who's got what, and trading shrubs for those who have bought a few extras, and really just adding a lot more green to my island as if it needed more. But there's also hedge fencing, which is something that really got me excited, just because I have fencing all over my island, and the fact that now they've added this fencing that's completely made of grass, and you can just kind of create essentially like little gardens in and around your island. That's been really cool too. So I've been keeping myself busy just thinking about where to put all this new stuff around the island.
That's great. And then just to finish off on the seasonal events that are happening kind of right around this time this episode posts, the May Day tour, which lasts from May 1st through the 7th, the first week of May. This allows you to use a one-time May Day ticket for a limited time tour to a special island with a special visitor. So that sounds pretty intriguing. I wonder who this special visitor could be. Any thoughts there you find? Are you looking forward to this one as well?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think in the trailer we saw the back of someone's head, which I'm definitely hoping it's Rover, but who knows when they turn around.
So Morgan, what does your daughter think of just the fact that I don't know how much she's maybe realized this yet, just that this game continues to kind of evolve, and that this world has holidays and special parties and things just like in the real world?
Yeah, I think that the first actually inclination she had was less even about the events being added, or new spec, but just I would have her, have some friends that she's flown over to visit their islands to get some new flowers, or and just seeing what others had done was sort of like, whoa, how do I get all this other stuff? And then add on top of that, like you said, suddenly there's the ability to buy shrubs, or there's I can't tell you how much like the eggs and the bunny day, at least for my daughter, man, she was all in on it. It was fantastic. So she was just like, what's happening? So yeah, I think she's still sort of realizing how much I think will change and will be added. And even the fact that, like you say, you pay off your mortgage in your house, you have to wait the next day to see your house. She really has taken it in stride. And I think it's a really great to see her sort of like, oh, I can't wait to wake up tomorrow and see my new house. So yeah, the pace and sort of the way things sort of unfurl she's really gotten into the pace of it all.
That's great. Yeah. Well, I'm going to quickly run through the other upcoming seasonal kind of events that were announced, starting with International Museum Day. This is from May 18th through the 31st. This will allow you to take part in a stamp rally, and this is where you receive a special stamp card, and then you kind of go around viewing the fish, insects, and fossils while collecting stamps at the various museum exhibits. If you do that, you can get an in-game reward. Looking forward to finding out what that is. And then there is for the full month of June, wedding season. This is where you visit Harvey's Island to meet the married couple Reese and Cyrus. And you get to take anniversary photos with them in the wedding picture studio. And this will get you some wedding themed items. Yafine, what are you most looking forward to?
I'm really curious to see what the museum stamp day stuff is going to be. Just because as of now, I go through I've been filling up my museum as a diligent donator, right? But I go through and I kind of look at the exhibits. I'm kind of excited to see that. Well, we just got the expansion of the art, right? So even now the museum's already gotten bigger, and just to see some more things to do in the museum, I'm pretty excited for, just because as of now, like, I go through and look at it, but I haven't really spent that much time just because I've been focused so much on the rest of my island. So I'm excited to, really give the museum a little bit more time and like take my time going through whatever the activity is. And for the wedding stuff too, same, right? I spent a little bit of time taking photos on Harvey's Island, but this seems like it's going to add some more stuff to do there, and also some fun wedding themed furniture and such to kind of decorate my own island with too.
Cool. And Morgan, what are you looking forward to? Either some of these upcoming events, or maybe because your game is proceeding at your daughter's pace right now. Maybe just in general, what's something in the game that you're looking forward to trying and haven't had a chance to yet?
I mean, it's a small thing, but I just like the change in the seasons, or just the changes that come with the time of year. Or even my daughter the other day asked if she could stay up late so she could look at the stars in the game, because it doesn't get dark on the island until until after her bedtime. So just sort of all of it. And I'm not sort of like, she doesn't really know any of that stuff's coming until it comes. So I'm sort of just going to try to take it all in stride with her, and really enjoying sort of playing it at her pace. And yeah.
The island life pace. Yeah, cool. Well, before we finish talking about Animal Crossing New Horizons, you find, you have, as you said, spent quite a bit of time in this game. So I just wanted to ask you if you have any general thoughts, maybe some tips or things that you learned while building up, your island, that you might want to pass on to other people. And I'm speaking particularly for myself right now, because I'm still at the point, I've spent a lot of time designing my clothes and stuff. I've basically been doing everything except what Isabel's been telling me to do to try to finally get to the point where KK Slider is going to come to my island, and I understand that I would eventually get the island designer functionality. So if you've got any maybe broad general, like, don't tell me exactly what to do, but things that I might, generally speaking, things I might keep in mind on how to get my island ready to take that next step, what would you recommend?
Yeah, that's the best part about it is that, I've had a lot of friends who've been playing, and everyone's kind of maybe started at different times, and it's really interesting to see how everyone chooses to play differently, right? It's some people are focused on, I want to collect all the clothes and make my islander have all these cool outfits. Other people are more focused on, okay, I want to get KK Slider to come, I want to get island designer. So it's really just really, for me, getting to the point of getting KK to come, it was really just focused. I was really just wanting to design more of my island, and really just went wild with all the ideas that I had, and it just kind of came naturally from there. And so, in terms of advice, I would say, just think about what you want your island to look like, and really think about, how you want to make it all look. Plant some trees, plant flowers based on like what you want the layout to be. And I think naturally you'll just kind of make those steps towards getting there, right? It's less so about like, okay, what exactly do I have to do? It's more about, okay, now I have the freedom to kind of just, think about what I want my island to be, and then just really, really have fun with it from there. And I think eventually you'll just come to a point where you're realizing, oh, I think I'm hitting that next goal already without even realizing it.
Yeah, that's a good point. The game does a pretty good job of that, especially with the whole Nook Miles program, where it's just constantly kind of rewarding you for just doing the things that you're already enjoying doing. So, so maybe if I just stop designing retro game clothes for my character for a little while, I'll naturally get to that next level.
Maybe you do what you want to do, Chris. That's the whole point.
All right. Well, thanks again, guys, for that. And now we are going to move on to Player's Pulse. Now, this is where we always check with the Nintendo fans out there, but this time we tried things a little bit differently. We posted 3 polls on Twitter, And I just wanted to ask some random stuff and see what people would say. And I was really happy with the results. First of all, we asked, if you're in first place, which item would you rather have? Obviously, this was in reference to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And the possible answers were Boo, a red shell, a superstar, or a super horn. And superstar was the lead vote getter at about 43%. But it was kind of a tight race. Superhorn got 31%, and Red Shell 17%. Boo, I guess you don't quite know what you're going to get when you steal an item, so not as good as the other ones. But Morgan, what do you think? If it's between Superstar and Superhorn, which would you rather have on that final lap if you're holding the lead?
I mean, Superstar is tempting, but I feel like I would be stressed about when to use it, because you're not going to have. I mean, it's going to protect you. I mean, I think I would go Superstar as well, but it would be unfamiliar to have a superstar if I was already in first place. So I would definitely be like checking my rearview mirror a lot, and then I'd probably trigger it the second I saw any danger coming, or obviously like you'd have to time it. Like, how long is this going to last? Okay, can I hold it until the right moment to have it carry me across the line, or do I need to use it defensively earlier than you might want? So I like the dynamic that would be in play there.
Yeah, but to your point, I think if you could have any of these in first place, you'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, exactly. It's usually a banana hanging off the back.
Yeah, or coins. Yeah, which are very helpful. All right, the next question we asked is, which style of multiplayer gaming do you prefer? And co-op beat competitive 57% to 43%. So Yafine, what do you think about that? Are you surprised that more people would rather team up in co-op than face off? By a slim margin, at least?
No, I can see that. I'm definitely a big co-op gamer, right? I love just like sitting down and playing with friends or playing with my partner. So it's I would choose co-op too. There's just so many good co-op games out there, and I love just like the joy of like, even if like, let's say we're playing Super Mario Party, right? If you're all just playing co-op together and you're teamed up, like there's a little bit of that competitiveness, but also that like lighthearted fun that comes from co-op games. So co-op would definitely be my choice.
Yeah, I think that's right for me too, although I really do love playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe competitively online. But maybe because I'm not the best competitive player in other games, I'd rather just be friends with people and team up. All right, and the final question that we asked was, who would you pick to be your personal life coach? And the options were Eslo from The Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap, Fi from The Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword, Midna from The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess, or Navi from The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Morgan, let me first ask you, before I say who won, who would you rather be your personal life coach? Eslo, Fi, Midna, or Navi?
For me, it's Navi. I think partially just sort of, I don't know. It's like just this the aesthetically pleasing. I want Navi, just kind of hanging around me all the time.
Navi's certainly good at getting your attention if anything should happen. Well, the winner was Midna with an overwhelming 54%. I feel like Midna is one of my favorite characters here and would be great, but Midna would also, I think her words of advice would often be very harsh. I don't think she really pulls her punches.
Yeah, I would have chosen Midna too. I would just love that, the thematic, and she's hiding in your shadow and all that kind of stuff.
Well, great. Thanks everyone who participated in the poll, and we'll see what crazy questions we can think of for next time. Now we are going to move on to Pros Picks. And, this is where we always recommend games that we've been enjoying, but I thought this time we change it up a little bit. Like a lot of people right now, I've had some extra time to play games. So what I've done personally is I've gone back to finish some action exploration games that I hadn't gotten through before. That's one of my favorite genres, going all the way back to the original Metroid game on NES. And, these games tend to have lots of content and are fun to just spend a lot of time kind of meticulously working through, especially if you're trying to get 100% of everything. So, I was hoping that we would each share this time, a game that we would recommend in that genre that people might want to check out on their Nintendo Switch. So, Morgan, let's start with you. What kind of action exploration game would you recommend people to check out?
Yeah, so I was thinking about action exploration type games, and thinking about it took me all the way back to what, for me, I believe, was the first type of game I ever played in this style, which was Blaster Master on the NES, which I think came out in 1988, and I think I rented it. I don't think I was a my dad would let me rent games rather than buy new games, so I'd work through a lot of them. And that one, man, I rented that one over and over. And yeah, and if people haven't played Blaster Master, it's and if you have Nintendo Switch Online, it is one of the NES games you can play on it, and I think it still holds up. I mean, you have this this sort of Jeep tank thing, Sophia, that you drive around, and it has a cannon. You can missiles and upgrade it and stuff, but you can also hop out of the vehicle and walk around. You're this tiny little dude, and I just love that dynamic of having this vehicle that you're driving around, and then you hop out and you do little missions, and then you can hop into this. You go in these little doorways, and then you're sort of it's yet another perspective as the little character, and it still holds up to me. I was playing it today on there, and I think as a kid it really kind of tied into. So you're navigating this world and doubling back and climbing down ladders and up ladders, and you're climbing in and out of your vehicle. And I did the same thing with my own sort of toys and action figures. All the action figures had their own vehicles, and you're going this way and that way and stuff. So yeah, I just really like that game. If people have never played Blaster Master, I would check it out. And there's also an updated version, Blaster Master Zero, which was sort of I don't know the right way to describe it. You probably have a better term for it for me, but
it's kind of a remake or a reimagining. I'm not sure, but it has its roots in the original game. Yeah.
Yeah, and I already had Blaster Master Zero, and I really enjoyed it. There's also a second sequel to that one, and today I actually went and played the first level in both, and it was really cool because when I played Blaster Master Zero and enjoyed it, I hadn't played the original that soon after, and just playing the first level side by side just was really cool to see how inspired it was and the little tweaks they made. So. Yeah, I just never got tired of driving around that Jeep tank thing.
I agree with you. There was something magical back then, and I think it holds up today about just being able to take, the character out of the vehicle and then kind of go exploring on your own. And of course, at that point, you're much more vulnerable, and it's the enemies are much more deadly.
Mm-hmm.
And then being able to, when you finally get back in the vehicle, you feel so safe and powerful again.
Yes, exactly.
I love that.
I love it.
Well, that's a great one, and I agree that I think all those the Blaster Master titles, the original NES game, and Blaster Master Zero and Blaster Master Zero 2, the latter of which actually came out not too long ago, are great options. Yafine, how about you?
I think I have to choose Hollow Knight. I play a lot of indie games, and Hollow Knight is just really stuck out to me over the years. There's just such an immersive quality to it, and I've always been really big. Growing up, I played a lot of RPGs and really loved games for the storytelling and like the artistic direction. And Hollow Knight, to me, it's, I guess, like when I first started playing it, I wasn't really sure what I was getting into, right? I didn't realize, I was like, oh, it's a platformer type, you'll go around, you'll have some action, exploration, but this one really, really sucked me in story-wise, and just, even down to the music and the sound design, like really, really just hooked me in. And it's definitely challenging, but that's something I enjoy, right? I think for me, if a game is challenging, there has to be something that's really like hooking me and getting me back into it. And for me, it was really wanting to explore more, right? If I hit a boss where I was like, man, this is really tough, eventually it was like, well, I'm so into this, I want to find out what happens next. I want to explore that area that's just beyond the boss. That's what really kept me going, and what really motivated me to be like, okay, let me try fighting this boss 10 more times to see if I can beat it. Eventually, and the game does a great job of really, easing you into kind of the mechanics. You really do feel like you're improving, right? Your own in gameplay. Your hands are maybe getting a little bit quicker because you're getting used to, all the buttons, and it's simple in terms of mechanics, right? Because you're slashing, you're jumping, you're bouncing off of enemies, but there is a lot of skill involved in it. So to me, it's just one of those games where there's just such a great balance between skill level from the player, where you're feeling like you're improving. There's like RPG elements in there where you're kind of just collecting things and learning new abilities, and then there's also just the really immersive world and story where I really want to find out more, and it just keeps me hooked the whole time. So I can't recommend that one any more than that. It's a really awesome game.
Yeah, absolutely. I really put a ton of time into that and got really lost in that world. And I would say that for people who like these kinds of games, this is one of the more challenging in terms of if you want to kind of uncover everything the game has to offer, because there's just so much. But like you said, they do a good job of kind of easing you into it. And even later on, when it gets really challenging in terms of certain things you might want to try to do in certain parts of the map, even some optional enemies or bosses that you want to fight can be really challenging. But they give you a lot of different items that you can find, and you always kind of have limited slots to kind of turn them on or off. So you have to really be strategic in kind of what abilities you're giving yourself. So I've found that if I get really stumped in that game, I often pause it and go to my inventory menu and really take a look at what I have and reconfigure kind of my abilities, and sometimes that helps me get past it. But yeah, the game just has this richness to the lore of it that as you continue to explore the maze, you feel like there's a real history to it, and it has this strangely odd appeal. And when you mix that together with this kind of dark gothic kind of look, it really is a very unique and compelling game for sure.
Yeah, and there definitely were. I definitely didn't beat the game in one sitting, right? There were definitely points where I think I probably hit a boss that I couldn't beat after a few times, and really what I did was I kind of just stepped away for a bit. Sometimes you just need to like maybe take a day or two to like recuperate, or like sometimes you try beating a boss for so long you're just like, I can't do it. Stepping away for a bit and maybe waiting a day or two and then coming back. Like there have been moments where I've come back and I beat the boss on the first try, after just stepping away for a day. And so that it's definitely one of those things where you're going to run into challenges, but it's so gratifying to be able to finally overcome those and progress through.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm going to get to my game now, and this is really the game that inspired me to kind of have this discussion with you guys today. And this is Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, from game Utelier, I think it is. Now, this is similar to another game that's available on Nintendo Switch called Wonder Boy: The Dragon's Trap from Lizard Cube. And that game was a one-to-one remake of a game called Wonder Boy 3: The Dragon's Trap for the Sega Master System way back in 1989. And even though the Sega Master System maybe wasn't as big here as in other regions, there seems to be a lot of nostalgia and love for those Wonder Boy titles, especially the ones like Wonder Boy 3: The Dragon's Trap, which had kind of that action exploration element built in. But Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, the game that I'm going to talk about here, is an all-new game, but it is very much a spiritual successor to those original Wonder Boy games, and it even pays homage to those with some really cool references that fans can find hidden in the game. And to me, this game, I mean, for the genre, I just finished it and put it down, and I just thought this game was a masterpiece. I mean, that the platforming is really fun. There's lots of different forms you can switch between. So you might be, a human, or you can turn into a tiny snake that can crawl into holes, or a pig kind of person that has the ability to kind of sniff out clues. The dragon lets you fly. The lion has these cool charging and down thrust attacks. And it's just really strong. So as you're going through the world and kind of going, backtracking through certain areas, you'll realize that now that you've gained this new form, it gives you access to this whole new branch of the map. And all the actions and platforming to me were just really fun to perform. So even just kind of running back through some of the same areas on your way to somewhere else in and of itself was just a pleasure. And they do a great job with the map itself and having making it really clear and color coded exactly kind of where you are, and marking the secrets, and even having lots of good fast travel spots, so you don't have to backtrack completely through every room. You can just kind of skip around as you unlock those travel portals. And the music's great, the graphics are great hand drawn animation. It's very colorful, sunny, kind of cheerful, classic feeling game, but very much with a modern HD kind of slick look to it. And I also liked that, for a game like this, where there's so much to find, especially if you want to get 100% of everything. I mean, first of all, there's a lot of great equipment that you can grab and equip, and depending on kind of the area of the map you're in, it might make more sense to have, for example, an ice sword, or it might make more sense to have heat-resistant armor. So, you can kind of switch things on the fly, like to accommodate the situation. And then, of course, ultimately, you're kind of grabbing collectibles to build the ultimate sword, shield, accessory, and those types of things. So there's a lot there to find, and then in the end game, when you finally are near the boss, you kind of gain the ability to, if you want to purchase these options at the shop to help identify where certain, whatever you haven't found yet, to find where it might be on the map. And they never tell you exactly where it is, just the general area. So it can still be pretty challenging to find everything. But I was able to finally do that, and I really felt like it was a pretty big accomplishment. But I stuck with it and just had a ton of fun. And then really briefly, I also want to mention a couple of other games that I've talked about before on this show. One being Iconoclasts, which is a great game of this type that probably has the best story out of all my favorite games on the Nintendo Switch for action exploration. And then there's Axiom Verge, which a lot of people are familiar with. It really feels a lot more like old school, like even like original NES Metroid, but still with a map and some more modern kind of touches. But I would say that's one of the more challenging ones. But if people are looking for that higher level of challenge, that's a great game to try to get and get 100% on. So I think those are all great options. I think the games you guys mentioned are also some of my favorites. And I think if anybody starts digging into one of those, they'll find that it'll keep them busy for quite a while. There's a lot of good fun there to be had. All right, now moving on to the Warp Zone quiz. Of course, we have this every episode. This is where I'm going to read off some clues and see if you guys can guess 3 games that came out 10, 20, and 30 years ago. The big clue here being that they all came out during the month of May. You guys ready?
Ready.
Ready.
Cool. So the first one, 10 years ago, this was in May of 2010. Nintendo released a game for Wii where you could drill into the dirt, create clouds, or roll as a rock, and your hub world was a giant head. Any guesses?
Giant head.
Turns 10 years old. Was one of the most popular games on the Wii system. Giant head may have had a mustache on it.
Man.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and tell you. I know you guys will know it as soon as I tell you the answer. Super Mario Galaxy 2.
Oh man, with the
I tried to make it a little tricky by not giving you the usual clues. I stuck to the new power-ups, Cloud Mario, Rock Mario.
Oh man, my brain went far away from that.
Yeah, you totally tricked me. But I will say that is one of my all-time favorite games, and I completed. I don't remember the exact collectible, but I 100%ed that game completely.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this really quick. Where do you fall on whether Super Mario Galaxy 1 or 2 is the better game?
For me, I spent so much time on 2. I'm partial to 2. I spent so much time. I mean, till my thumbs were, one with the controller.
I think I am too. I think I have a nostalgic love for the first one because it was so fresh and new at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think 2 really refined the idea and took it to another level. All right, moving on. 20 years ago, this is May of 2000. The clues are: Nintendo published an N64 game that pushed the system and its expansion pack to their limits, in which your mission was to infiltrate the Datadyne skyscraper, locate Dr. Carroll, and bring him back to the Institute undetected and unharmed. The game was the spiritual successor to one of the most memorable multiplayer games of the N64 era. Any guesses?
Perfect Dark.
Nice. That's it exactly. Perfect Dark.
I played so much of that game. I knew it after the second line.
Awesome. Well, you're back on the winning track here.
Nice work. You saved our rep there. I'm totally riding your coattails now.
All right. Well, one last question here. 30 years ago, this is May of 1990. The clues are: Square developed a game for NES that starred the Light Warriors and marked the first entry in a beloved series. The Nintendo Power strategy guide to this game promised info on weapons, spells, friends, foes, and maps that would lead to victory. Any guesses? The Light Warriors. They could include a fighter, a thief, black belt, black mage.
Is it Final Fantasy? But I wasn't sure if Final Fantasy started before this or if it was 1990 when it first started.
That's it. It's Final Fantasy for the NES.
Ooh,
the original game. Also, Ninja Gaiden 2: The Dark Sword of Chaos came out in May of 1990. Almost chose that one, but Final
Man,
Fantasy. Come
man,
on,
30
gotta go.
years.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
So I said that was the last question, but I lied because now we have a bonus question.
Yes.
That's an audio-only question, just like we tried for the first time last episode. So I'm going to ask if you can guess which game this sound comes from. Any guesses?
Oh my gosh, it sounds so familiar. Oh man, so familiar. The only this is probably dead wrong, but any chance to mention Pilot Wings is a chance to mention Pilot Wings, so that's my guess.
No, but I almost feel like giving you credit just because you mentioned Pilot Wings.
Thank you.
All right, for anyone listening, I'm going to play it one more time. All right, you fine? Any guesses, or should I go ahead and reveal the
I mean,
game?
it sounds like a Mario Kart, like roulette, but I don't know why I also thought Diddy Kong Racing, but I don't think that's it either.
Well, I'm going to give you full credit because it is the roulette sound from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. When
Really?
you hit an item box.
Nice.
Yes, when you hit an item box, that's the sound it makes. Nice job.
Nice.
Ooh.
That explains why it sounds so familiar.
I know. It's almost, it's easy to overthink because I'm sure we've all heard that sound hundreds of times.
In our dreams, yeah.
I know. I
right.
was thinking you'd be craftier and go with a deep cut, so good work.
All right, well, we're going to finish things off with game forecast. This is where we always take a quick look at just some of the Nintendo Switch games that are coming out soon. I'm just going to run through the whole list here. On May 8th, we have Super Mash from Digital Continue. On May 12th, we have The Elder Scrolls Blades from Bethesda Softworks. Then on May 14th, we have Best Friend Forever from Alliance and Hunt Down from Coffee Stain Publishing. On May 15th, we have Hatsune Miku, Project Diva Megamix from Sega. On May 26th, we have Minecraft Dungeons from Mojang. May 27th, we have Ninjala from Gung Ho Online. And on May 29th, it's a busy day, we've got BioShock The Collection from Take-Two Interactive. Now this includes BioShock Remastered, BioShock 2 Remastered, and BioShock Infinite The Complete Edition. And of course, you can buy any of those games individually, digitally as well. And then we have Borderlands Game of the Year Edition, also from Take-Two Interactive. XCOM 2 Collection from Take-Two, and Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition from Nintendo. All right, that's a lot. And again, that's only just a sample of what's coming out this month. What jumps out to you guys?
Well, obviously, Best Friend Forever, because it is like, I don't know if people haven't looked this game up. It's like a dating, dog raising sim combo. I mean, it looks incredible. So that one jumps off the page for me.
Yeah.
That's great. What about you? You fine?
I gotta say that BioShock The Collection, just because I'm super excited to play those games again. I want to say it's been over 10 years since the original came out, and to be able to play it again now and with fresh eyes, I'm super stoked.
Great. Well, all of those sound great to me, but I'm going to go with Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. I played the version that came out for new Nintendo 3DS a while back, and got, I want to say maybe 75% of the way through it, and just never got over the hump there for the end. So now I'm looking at kind of the sharper graphics and some of the additional content that they're adding for this version and thinking, this is where I'm finally going to right my past wrong and see this game all the way through to the end. Cool. Well, Morgan and Yafine, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Great. See you next time. That's it for this episode of Nintendo Power Podcast. If you have any comments or questions you'd like us to consider answering on the show, you can email us at nintendopowerpodcast@noa.nintendo.com. Also, we always appreciate it if you can leave us a review, and be sure to subscribe so you get new episodes as soon as they're ready. Thanks for listening, and keep playing with power.